Hi, my name is Daniel Calegari. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Iran from 1973 to 1975.
And where in Iran were you stationed?
A little town called Shirvan near Mashhad, Iran, in the northeastern corner. 35 years later, I was speaking Persian yesterday to a Kurdish person in Manchester, New Hampshire, so I made a very serious attempt to keep my language skills up, and I haven't been back, but I still reference the place on a pretty regular basis. I pretty much spent most of my time with the people on the street, and I was there when TV first came to town. And after hundreds of years of the tradition of gardesh, which is walking up and down the street, usually men holding hands with other men, when TV showed up, that changed that historic habit of walking up and down the street at night to people crowding into the very few TVs that were available. There were probably only a half a dozen TVs available in town, but there were 50 to 80 people squeezing themselves into the few homes that had television.
My name is John Salamack, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Iran from 1965 to 67 in a small city outside of, quite a bit outside of Mashhad, in the northeast corner of Iran. I was an English teacher there. I was an English teacher in the States before I went there. 2 years working with Iranian English teachers who I was worried that we were going to be used to replace those teachers and put them out of jobs. So instead of doing that, we ran a night school for English teachers and to improve their English language skills and thereby help them in their classroom, in their daily classroom lessons, etc. After Peace Corps Iran, they had told us not to make a career out of Peace Corps, but I tried. I worked in Washington in the Office of Volunteer Support for several years, and after that I became Director of Training in Morocco. And after doing that for several years in Morocco, I also trained a group of Peace Corps volunteers, among the first to go into Yemen. It was North Yemen at the time. I would say that joining the Peace Corps was the watershed decision of my life. My life has never been the same since. It opened up the world to me. It made me feel like a citizen of the world rather than just an American. And for that, I will be forever grateful to the Peace Corps for giving me that opportunity. I didn't come from a family that would have been able to give me the opportunities of international travel or experiences abroad. So once again, I just say thank you, Peace Corps.
Hi, I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer from Iran. I went in 1965. Genevieve Stead was my name back then. And then I met my husband while I was there, so I'm now Genna, Stead, Wangsness. So that's how I'm known. But that was a long time ago. I was there in 65 to 67 with a TEFL group, but I went over as a Peace Corps volunteer secretary, something they don't have anymore. Now they have paid secretarial staff. And I met my husband, and we stayed there 4 more years. I married him right when I was ready to leave at the end of my tour, and we stayed. So I was there a total of 6 years. And
where were you stationed?
And I was first of all in Tehran, and then I went to Shiraz, and then after I married my husband, we came back to Tehran, and I had my first child there, Allison. I think one of the things is that I've been thinking about lately is the fact that when I first got there and after I was there for a couple of months, I ended up in the hospital with headaches, and they didn't know what it was and all that. And And the fact that by the time they got me to the hospital, my headaches went away, and I think it was just sort of a cultural crises type of thing, that my body reacted to being in a strange environment by getting horrible, horrible headaches, and the Peace Corps doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. But then when I went to the American hospital, I got well. So, and at the time I didn't realize that you could have cultural shock, and I think that's what I was experiencing. It was a wonderful experience. The Iranian people are absolutely wonderful, and they love Americans, and we love them, and hope many people will be able to go and visit Iran someday.
My name is Jeanette Grayson Gottlieb. I was in Iran from 65 to 67, and I was in Noshar and in Hamadan. I was in a TEFL group. Favorite things that happened? Well, I had challenging things, like my second year I had a class of students. I had 65 students in my class, which was not atypical of an Iranian high school class. And one day I was having a really hard time with the class, and I kicked 15 kids out of class. And it was like, oh wow, it's so easy to teach with only 50 kids in the class instead of 65. So that was one strange one. Other one of the things that I remember very fondly is a family that I knew. The grandmother came to stay with them, and at this time I was very new in Iran. My Farsi was still a little shaky, but she told me the most wonderful stories, and she had no English. I had a little bit of Farsi, and the two of us managed to sit there by the hour, and she was able to communicate stories from her childhood, told me all about growing up. She was a Bakhtiari tribesperson. Her husband had been one of the minor khans, and during World War II, they had some very incredible experiences. I had a lot of experiences like that, but that was one of my favorites, was the grandmother and she and I, the family asked me to stay with her so she wouldn't be alone while they were gone, and that was when I had this opportunity to talk to her for hours on end. And another favorite was making cream puffs in Iran. I was an American, therefore I should know how to make cream puffs. Of course, never having made cream puffs in my life, the family had a Better Homes and Gardens cookbook, and there was a recipe in English for cream puffs. Well, the first thing we had to do was translate from Fahrenheit to centigrade. Then we had to find somebody who had an oven. Well, there was somebody who had an oven in the town. So the first time we tried it, they didn't work because we were 100 feet below sea level. So the flour was so wet that it wouldn't work. So one of the husbands was going to Tehran, so he brought back flour in a sealed container, and the day came. So we got out the recipe. We whipped up our cream puffs. The houseboy for the lady that had the oven hopped on his bicycle with the tray of cream puffs on his head, bicycled fast to the oven, and popped the cream puffs in. And we walked over and sat and held our breath for the cream puffs to come out. And they came out. The little round pastries came out. And he hopped on the bicycle with the cream puffs on his head and pedaled back as fast as he could go to the other house where everybody was waiting expectantly. And we popped them open, made the cream, popped them in, and everybody sat down and ate them before they got too soggy. And why we couldn't have done it all at one house, I don't know, but that's the way it worked. And I loved him going through town with the cream puffs on his hand.
Okay, my name is Bob Hewes. I was in Iran, Tehran, Iran from 1966 to 68.